Anything you should spend your Bitcoin on, some more time. Are you going to hold on to those $2? Because if you wait, it's only going to have the purchasing power of $1. All right. Sorry, guys, running a little behind schedule. I know I promised to be on here at 9 p.m. I am 7 minutes late, 6 and 47 seconds. Man, had a great show with Adam last night. I learned so much about Bitcoin. Guys, the reason I started getting into making content was merely for me to learn. I'm like, the best way to learn is to put on a show about it. And then I would even I remember when I first started, I would answer the questions that the new people would come up. And I knew my answer was just so bad. It was so off. It was like what a newbie would explain. And I knew the OG Bitcoiners could not help themselves and would come up to the stage and just correct me and give a much better answer than I did. So that's how I learned I learned by doing. I know a lot of people are the same way. I think experiential knowledge is the best knowledge. There's no way around, reading a book to get some experiences. If you're going to go sailing, you read a book about sailing, that's night and day difference. You can watch movies on it. It's not like sailing. It's not like, playing a sport. It's fixing a car. Like you can read about fixing a car, but until you fix a car and you break it down, put the part in, it runs, it's like, now you know what the tools are for. If you just see random tools and if you never use them, you're like, what that tool's for? But if you work on a car and you see what each tool does, well, then now you have the experience, and that experience comes with knowledge. So this is where we have experiential knowledge. This is why when people are asking me, how do they learn about Bitcoin? I said, well, one of the best ways to learn about Bitcoin is to use it, buy some of it, take custody of it, buy it on exchange, send it to your wallet, stamp out a seed phrase. This is once you do, and that's about it. That's the few things you can do, at least for the Bitcoin itself. Then you can run a node, then you can run a mine, and you can be part of this movement, part of this network. And, there is a movement among node runners and miners that are they're making money. And I don't know, some of the stuff you just do to strengthen the network, though. You don't run a node necessarily because it makes you money. You run it so that it strengthens the node. You learn about that layer of it. You learn what it's for. You keep a copy of the whole block, the whole Bitcoin. What do they call it? See, I lost it. It was I don't know. It's like all the transactions that have ever happened in Bitcoin. There's a certain term for it, but it slips my mind. But the point is, you can download this, and I forget how big it is, but it's big enough. It's small enough to fit on one of those nice hard drives or something. And so everybody having a copy of all the Bitcoins ever to be all the transactions. It's like keeping a record of all the bank transactions. And so this is where, fraud and the banks can kind of steal from you, or it could be an inside job. It's not like maybe if they're not trying to, but just somebody in their IT department can steal funds and stuff. And so we've got all this friction with our current systems because there's so many areas for slippage, and there's so many areas for cybersecurity to not be strong enough, and then just paper over it. Like, you realize all the time that your bank loses money, credit cards get stolen, all that kind of stuff. They just literally paper over the whole thing. They just because money's so free to them. Now, why is Bitcoin? And this is one thing we learned from Adam. Why is Bitcoin so not susceptible to that? And this is what Adam figured out. He said, as I started to dig deeper, I knew the base layer of Bitcoin, the true base layer of Bitcoin, is the kilowatt hour electricity. So you buy a kilowatt, 10 cents for 1 kilowatt. You're paying for electricity. Where did that electricity come from? So many of you may not have heard that there's a machine that produces free electricity They're everywhere. They just produce free electricity. Oh, wait, there is no such machine, and there never has been. Anytime you produce electricity, there's a cost. You had to burn some fossil fuel or coal, or you had to dam a river, or you had to build a nuclear plant, or you had to build a massive windmill or solar panels and store it, and then you had to transmit it. The kilowatt demands work. It demands work. There's nobody like it's not easier anywhere else. We all have the same struggle to make electricity. These are big infrastructure projects. There's these are some of the most expensive things on earth that make electricity. These massive gigawatt facilities. And so at the base layer, it costs electricity to mine Bitcoin. And it costs electricity more than most because it demands proof of work. So Satoshi set it up where he said, these computers are going to have to do the work. And here's another thing we don't have on planet Earth. We don't have a computer yet that you don't have to plug into electricity. Now, they might be getting more efficient, but all computers plug into electricity. They all require energy. And right now, they all require electricity, energy in the form of electricity, 120, 240, 480, three-phase, 277, whether it's like a big, massive new Bitcoin miner that runs on 480 volts, three-phase, and they're liquid cooled. Okay, they might be running more efficient, but it's not a zero cost. They still have to pay some electricity. They have to buy a kilowatt, run it through this machine. It can do the work, and it can earn the Bitcoin through this mining technique. Think of all other ways to all the other markets that are manipulatable. The gold markets, we've got insider trading on stocks, we've got fiat that can just be printed at will. Okay, but Bitcoin is essentially an energy network. It's a network of all the ways that you could think of to make electricity. And they're plugging their machines into all the different ways. And it's actually looking for the cheapest energy. So Bitcoin, one of its powers is it can go to the energy. So it can look for stranded energy in the middle of a jungle, little small pockets of energy that really can't be sold to market. But if you bring the market to me, I've got some gas I can flare off, and you can run, just a handful of Bitcoin mines, and that's just like extra money because you're going to have to pay fees and penalties for flaring that natural gas off. But the point is that making electricity is hard, and Bitcoin needs electricity. And that's why it's such a strong network. It's a proof of work network. So if you're looking for ways to fraud a system, hack a system, cheat a system, when you start digging into Bitcoin, you start looking for ways to cheat it, and what you'll find is the whole system is built to where you can't cheat it, you can't hack it. You got to get consensus if you're going to change any rules. And Bitcoin has evolved a little over the years, but getting consensus is insanely hard. I'm not even sure the whole process, but apparently there's this forum where you have these Bitcoin developers. They call them bit devs. And they're building the network. They're building all the different protocols, and they're building all this Fediments, and they're building all the Lightning. And these are people that just, and what's a bit dev? It's just, a coder, just a person that is obviously who works in this arena. And he is just building something for all of us to use. And so it could be an app, could be a Lightning wallet, could be anything. They're working on, okay, so there's a lot, from my understanding, there's about 800 of them actively on some fashion. They're basically on the email list, and they contribute solutions to Bitcoin problems, or they just talk about them or whatever. I need to get one of those guys on here to explain a little bit better than me because I'm butchering it. So here's your calling. If you're out there and you're a bit dev, reach out to me. We'll have you on, and you can set the record straight. So I'm just merely here to lay out bait for you to bite into and say, all right, we got Craig don't know what the hell he's talking about. All right. He knows just enough to be dangerous, right? All right. So these guys basically start proposing an idea, let's say, to a big problem that's coming. And then they all have to somewhat agree on it. And the biggest thing is that they just say, okay, this isn't going to hurt the network. So everybody, that's kind of the first thing they want to do. This isn't going to hurt the network. All right, but that doesn't mean we're going to do it. Okay, we just said it's not going to hurt the network, but you still have to convince all the nodes and the miners and all this stuff to actually uh, fork it that way, to actually start using this new, I guess, plug-in solution or whatever. And it's insanely hard because these people are scattered all over the place. Miners are everywhere. Most miners just leave it plugged in, pointed to the same thing. And so now Bitcoin, if it faced something tragic and big enough, it's like as the enemy is more common to everyone, node runners, holders, people that are mining, like even energy producers, like, oh, wow, if we don't do something about this, it's certain destruction or it's going to hurt the the whole population. That's when getting consensus is easier. But all this little chatter, suggestions, oh, we could do this, we could do this with Bitcoin, now with Bitcoin, people just let it chatter and let it beat its head against this consensus machine that has to get everybody to kind of agree to this. And that's just grinds slow. And I think that's what Satoshi's intention was. Bind it by the laws of physics to the kilowatt. Make it a proof of work network where you had to plug in what? Computers. Computers draw electricity. You have to take massive compute. You have to take electricity. Now, albeit it will take the dirtiest, nastiest, whatever electricity. It can be intermittent. It can be kind of brownoutish. It can be stranded. It can take oil. It can take waterfall in the middle of a jungle. It can be right in the middle of a population center. It can be in the middle of nowhere. It can be frozen in the mountains where there's snow and stuff. It just doesn't really care. It's just going to do what it does. It doesn't need to be near ports. It doesn't have to be at a certain altitude. It doesn't have to be at a certain humidity. Like they've gotten these things where you can just put them anywhere. And now you can actually, and Adam was talking about this, now we can actually overbuild cities. We can have these cities that have like, we need a 50 megawatt generator. And they're like, well, why don't we just build in case it expands? It's cheaper to build 100 megawatt or even a gigawatt, rather than these 50 megawatt here, another 50 there, another 25 here. Let's just build one big one. Like, well, what are we going to do with that extra capacity? We don't have enough citizens. We don't have enough commerce in this 100,000 person area. There's just no consumer demand for that much electricity. It means we're going to have an idle asset just sitting around doing nothing. In come Bitcoin, co-locate on the same fence or in the same perimeter of the power plant. So you can build the power plant and you can get the Bitcoin miners inside the same building. You don't even have to put it outside the building. You can leave it inside the building right next to the switch gear. Okay. And then you can just pipe electricity into this thing. And, if you build 100 megawatt, you overbuilt by 50, those Bitcoin miners will gladly take all 50 megawatts all day and night. And then, and actually they'll even take the valleys at 3 a.m. So there might be an extra 20 megawatts that's just idling as well because everybody's asleep. Nobody's drawing electricity. It'll consume that. And then when they hop up and start turning their coffee pots on and they start doing stuff in the morning, the Bitcoin miners can just wait that 2 hours. Okay. So Bitcoin miners can be co-located on power facilities, and I think they will. And then things will just run all, at 100% as much as possible. And that's actually lowers a lot of their maintenance costs. It's that constant ramping up and turning off that actually wears out with the constant expansion and contraction of everything metal and all these joints. And some of these expansion joints are like 6 feet. Yeah, you heard me right. A 6-foot expansion joint. That means this pipes, it swells over the whole distance to where the fraction on the back end is like a 6-foot swing. That's why they're hanging some of these pipes from big cables. They can't put them on the ground. And so imagine if you just turned it on and can just leave it on. That's actually can diminish a lot of the services that these big facilities has to have. So anyway, just economies of scale. It's, Bitcoin's coming in with the ability to just allow you to just build the biggest thing possible. And we have a ready client for that excess electricity. So build it the biggest you can. Okay, what's the biggest power plant you can build in this area? And then there's other limiting factors. But the limiting factor that has now been deleted, here's the big point. The limiting factor that has now been deleted has often been, what's your city's population? That's been the limiting factor. Not what's the price of coal, not what's the price of natural gas, not what's the size of the loan we are going to be able to get. Like, can we bond this thing? Like, those are limiting factors also. But the smallest bottleneck has always been, how big is your population? And nobody's ever going to build, you know, enough electricity for a small New Orleans. They're not going to build the same electricity infrastructure for New Orleans as they do for New York, because New York is what, 17 times bigger. So wouldn't it stand to reason that New York's going to need 17 times the electricity? And so New Orleans doesn't need something that big. I mean, because now you don't have a customer. So Bitcoin basically has the infinite customer. It can come, it can buy at any time. It can buy before you ramp up. It can buy on day one. It can buy when you have stranded power. It can buy if you are a coal mine. You can actually build a power plant in the coal mine, bring the Bitcoin miners to you, and now you don't even have to ship it. You just have to feed it into the powerhouse, and your client is now your Bitcoin mines. You become your own client, and you pay yourself with Bitcoin to then dig more coal and feed the machine and buy more Bitcoin to then dig more coal. So, I mean, it's a system I think is coming to the energy sector. And one thing Adam said was, got to check his numbers, but I think he said Bitcoins are going to mine what, 12 to 17 billion dollars worth of Bitcoin this year. I need to run numbers on that. I'm just going by his word. But that's one day of energy. That's one day of the oil and gas industry. They do that much in one day. That's how big these industries are. And I think the oil industry, a $4 trillion annual industry, is going to start looking at the Bitcoin network as a way to just preserve their position, their power, to expand, because now you have energy companies competing with banking. Banking is who handles the transactions, who gets all the fees, who onboards all the people, who has all the brick and mortars on every main street, right? You're going to have oil and gas competing for the same activity. That means an oil and gas is going to be, well, we'll use our Bitcoin mines and we'll verify transactions and we'll send funds globally, peer to peer, and that kind of stuff. And they'll be slowly siphoning off people saying, well, I can go run my Visa card, or I can go send Bitcoin. Okay. And you're going to have energy producers competing with banks. Just my prediction. It seems like, in a gamification way, that would make sense. Often it's the person most suited for the victory is the one that finds a way to play the game so he can have the victory. I feel like, everybody's playing basketball and we're all 6 feet tall. There's some big 7-foot tall guy over there, and we're all thinking, man, I hope he never learns how to play this game, because if he does, he's going to kill us all. He's got all this infrastructure, all this power. These are infrastructure kings in the energy sector. And when I say energy, this is like oil and gas. There's a big electrical grid people that have these transmission lines, or that they'll just make these big power facilities. There's big natural gas, I don't know if y'all have ever been and seen the scale of a powerhouse, but you really should, and see how big these things are. And I think Bitcoin's just going to get consume so much of the market. And I think this is where it's going. I think the natural Bitcoin miner, as we evolve as Bitcoin miners, the natural Bitcoin miner is people that are in energy. I think once they get it, as much as I hope it becomes a custom and a tradition for all Bitcoin, for all people to have little miners on their desk, or one in their basement or something, just to contribute to the how more decentralized our network is. And that's what you want. You want decentralization. You don't want all the Bitcoin miners in one location. You don't want all the hash in one city and one company and stuff. And I think we do have some of that issue going on here. So it's going to be something we have to figure out. But Anyway, so Adam did a great job yesterday. Tomorrow, we got Dr. Amada Moose as a guest. And let me see, I think we're bringing on a couple other people that recently signed up. I know G Money, I saw him. Let me get my Calendly app open. If y'all haven't used Calendly, oh my gosh. And I don't get any money for that, but I probably should. I think I should probably get some type of referral agreement. Yeah, G Money just booked to have a call on the show prep call. And Bob Burnett is another show prep call on the next Monday. Rob Wallace. Oh, I love Rob. He owns the Bitcoin News. One of the first guys I met. Frank Corva, another guy. So we've got some people coming up. And then there's a lot of people that I'm just in conversation with. I'm just kind of getting warmed up. So again, give me to like the 50th show. I think this is show number 15. So another 35 to go. We'll get all the editing out. Chris is doing a great job on that. I need to get me a producer here for this, but maybe not. All right, I'm going to go ahead and play Chris's Bitcoin intro. We use this as the outro, and we actually have a competition going on for a couple more good intros and outros for the show. So let me know what y'all think.
Welcome to the Daily Bitcoin Podcast, where knowledge meets financial freedom. We're here to break down the world of Bitcoin. No fluff, no hype, just real talk about how this digital asset is reshaping the future of money. Inflation is stealing your purchasing power, but what if there was a way to fight back? Enter Bitcoin, the digital currency that empowers you to take control of your wealth. Ever wondered why your money doesn't stretch as far as it used to? At the Daily Bitcoin Podcast, we educate, inform, and inspire. From expert interviews to breaking news, we bring you everything you need to stay ahead in the Bitcoin community. Market updates, expert insights, real-world use cases, and practical tips to navigate the Bitcoin economy. So whether you're a seasoned Bitcoin investor or just getting started, this is your daily dose of Bitcoin wisdom. Don't miss out. Subscribe now, hit that bell icon, and let's break free from the chains of inflation, one Bitcoin at a time. The Daily Bitcoin Podcast, your gateway to financial freedom.
All right. So I wanted to answer one of the questions because we've had some pretty recent volatility, and people think this is volatile. This is not volatile. I'll show you volatile. That's what Bitcoin tends to tell us. Anytime you think when you first come in, you're like, oh, I'm doing so good. And all of a sudden you go from bragging about it to sweating because you just seen like thousands, leave your account. But that is normal. That is so normal. We've got such a dynamic market. People are saying, who's selling? Okay, there's natural sellers, right? And there's things that affect those sellers. Of course, Bitcoin miners have to sell because they need to pay a massive electric bill. So Bitcoin miners are natural sellers. They got bills to pay. Another natural seller is somebody that's done great with Bitcoin, and you're not an individual. You're managing a portfolio, and in that portfolio, you have a thesis that governs your actions. And most of these say that I ask for permission from my board to now diversify into Bitcoin, and they give me a little bit. They say, okay, you can do 1%. And typically it's 0.1%, not 1% or 0.001%. Anyway, so imagine you got $100 million or $1 billion that you're managing. And so you get to put 1% of that. There's 10 million, right? So you put 10 million in Bitcoin, you buy it like whatever, you buy it at 80, it goes to 100, or let's just say it doubles like it recently did. Now you're out of balance. So you have to sell. The individual would be all excited about the profit, but these guys got to stay balanced. They got to go get permission to have more than 1%. They got permission for 1%, but now since Bitcoin just expanded so fast, it might become 1.5%. So they got to sell down to get it within the boundaries of their thesis. And a lot of times this happens end of the day. Sometimes it's weekly, monthly, whatever, but these portfolio managers have to sell when things are doing great. When things are doing great, everybody's celebrating. Nobody's selling. Okay. And then all of a sudden it goes down, like, who's selling? Those are a natural seller. If you've got a shock in the energy market and the cost of anything in that energy part segment goes up, that's going to make the kilowatt go up, a big storm, anything like that. Um, when energy prices go down, Bitcoin miners make a lot of profit. They don't need to sell. When energy prices go up, their electric bills more, they got to sell their Bitcoin. That's another downward pressure. Some people, believe it or not, are getting old and are going to die. And they're like, you know what? I'm going to spend my Bitcoin. They're past their accumulation stage. They're 80 years old. I know a few guys like this in their mid to late 70s, and they're like, and here we are, just don't sell, don't sell. And they're like, I got nothing else. I'm 100% in the Bitcoin, and I want to do things with my life. And I figure I got 10 years left. And these guys are saying, the next one's on y'all. Y'all go accumulate for that long. So some people are just living off their stack, and that's great. Awesome. Great for them. You know, they've got to a point in their life where they can live off their stack, go for it. And they're buying time. And I've always said that if there's anything you should spend your Bitcoin on, it's more time. If you can get more time, if you can get more control of your time, if you can work for yourself, if you can do something that you believe in, but you need a little more runway, I think that's a good investment in your to sell your Bitcoin for. Bitcoin's super valuable, and the only reason I would sell it would be to buy myself more runway to do something similar to this show, like I'm super passionate about. So yeah, those guys are going to sell Bitcoin. Some people just want to pull profits. They have this pull profit strategy. You put in 100,000. When it goes to 200,000, you pull out that original 100,000. Now you just let it all ride, and if it does it, you've kind of done it for free. And that's an investment strategy I heard forever in the stock world. I even had my stockbrokers. They would tell me, look, you give me 10,000, we'll put it in this one stock. If it goes to 20, we'll take out the 10. So you got your original investment back. Even if it goes to zero, you still didn't lose anything, right? And so that was a way for the investor to kind of cover his own ass in case it actually did go to zero. He said, well, hey, I gave you all your money back because I told you to cash it out at 20. But what are you selling it for? You're selling it for to go buy another loser, another stock. Hopefully you're buying the best stocks you can think about. And so I would not sell Bitcoin for any reason except for those few things. You got to sell if you got to pay your electric bill because you're a miner. You got to sell if you are, living off your stack. You got to sell if you are having that investment strategy where you take your original investment out. You got to sell if you're balancing a portfolio. So these are natural sellers. They're always going to be there. There's always somebody selling Bitcoin. And it does a lot of buying and selling. And then some people are just wanting to use it to buy their home. They're saving. And the great thing is that you might have had to save 20 Bitcoin to buy a home. And now it's like Bitcoins are so valuable. When it was 25,000 a Bitcoin, which was not that long ago, I think maybe less than a year and a half, something like that. 25,000 a Bitcoin, 10 of them, that's 250,000. 20 of them, it's $500,000. So if you want to buy a $500,000 house, you needed 20 Bitcoin. Today, you need 5. You need 5 Bitcoin to buy a $500,000 house. So maybe they were like, you know what, honey, let's just live in the trailer for another year and a half, and we can just only spend 5 of our Bitcoin instead of 20 for a home. And so some people are just having, this is a great one. They have a low time preference. Low time preference means that you're willing to wait if you can get something later. If I just wait a little bit longer, I prefer to wait a little longer. I don't need to get this instant gratification now. And it's one of those, look, I can give you 1 popsicle right now, or if you wait 10 minutes, I can give you 2 popsicles. So the kid's thinking like, do I want now? I do want a popsicle, but if I can just wait 10 minutes, I can have 2. And then maybe he can go give one to a friend, or he can just eat both of them. But the point is that if it looks like you're going to get something more in the future, it incentivizes you to be patient and to wait. And that's the exact opposite of what fiat does. Are you going to hold on to those $2? Because if you wait, it's only going to have the purchasing power of $1. Or like with that $2 now, I can buy 2 popsicles or 1 popsicle. But if I wait, I can only buy half a popsicle. So it's like, no, I'm going to buy this right now so I can get the whole popsicle, because if I wait, I'm not going to get as much. And so it's the exact opposite incentive. Fiat incentivizes you to sell, to spend, to like consume. Bitcoin incentivizes you to wait, be patient, only buy quality stuff, because you don't want to buy something that you could have just kept in Bitcoin and reached escape velocity of how much money you need. And so, anyway, we talked about that kind of stuff yesterday as well. But I wanted to give you a little bit about what causes this market volatility, who's selling in these markets. There's always natural sellers. There's always natural buyers. I would say so many of the Bitcoiners I know are dollar cost averaging on mindless computers. Like it's literally every hour they're buying Bitcoin, and it's on cruise control 24/7, just round. They're in their accumulation stage. They've got, $1,000 car note, a couple $1,000 house note, and $4,000 worth of Bitcoin monthly. just buying all the dips, all the highs, all the lows, everything in between. They're just buying. There are a ton of people out there doing that. Some of the best, smartest entrepreneurs are literally converting. If it ain't nailed to the ground, they are selling it, and they're ramen noodling this thing, and they are buying Bitcoin. There are some fanatics out there. And so those, I would say that's outside of Satoshi's wallet himself, that's a solid base layer. The only thing more solid than Satoshi's wallet, you might ask, as far as ain't selling, and it's the lost Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin that was just, in the early days, people just misplaced their wallets. They lost their keys. Even people that are onboarding themselves on the Bitcoin right now, we're all making mistakes in the early days, just small. And that stuff is never coming back. So all the Bitcoin cannot get sold, because there are some that just in wallets we can't get to. Satoshi's wallets have never been moved, so that's a pretty solid layer. The crazy Bitcoiners that are just accumulating like rabid dogs, and they're not going to sell until they're probably never. They're just going to give it to their kids, and maybe their kids will sell it. And then you got just and actually, I think if you look, 70% of Bitcoin haven't moved in like over a year or something. So I mean, it's in long storage. People are just hanging on to it. And I should pull up that chart about how many people hold it for 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, 6 months, and you got traders and stuff. But as a network, it's a buy and hold for a lot of people. People that are using it as treasury reserves assets, they're just holding it there. People that are using it for pension funds, they're just sitting there. Like, you've got a lot of people that have very long-term hold positions is normal for them. Anybody in real estate, those people are natural long holders. And so if you're an real estate investor, not using it as your home, but if you're an investor, and that piece of real estate is mainly there to preserve capital, man, Bitcoin's going to be turning your head soon. And that's a lot of long-term holders as well. So say all that to say that, a lot of Bitcoin is just going to be held for a long time. And those people are buying. A lot of those people are accumulating. Okay, let's see what else I had. Regulatory, no. Tech updates, don't know anything about that. Bitcoin versus altcoins, I kind of spoke about that a little bit. I could do Bitcoin versus altcoin. Okay. So why don't I buy Ethereum? Why don't I buy Solana? Why don't I buy XRP? This is such a normal question. You don't know the difference. They're just, crypto is crypto. Bitcoin's just the oldest crypto, the biggest crypto, the grandpa crypto. So very quickly, when you're new into this, you get just flash mobbed by this, all these altcoins just coming at you with marketing dollars and saying, we're the Bitcoin killer, Bitcoin 2.0. You can program, you can transact with, speed of light. And so they have all these promises and these development teams. And so, but here are a lot of the weaknesses. Weakness number one, if they're not bound to the kilowatt, you're gonna get cheated, hacked, something. The cheat will be found. The cheat will be found. Either it's going to come from the development team, it's going to come from a hacker, it's going to come from too much regulatory. Maybe governments are coming at the founders. It's going to come at. It's very centralized. It's going to come where the founders have like a massive pre-mine where they have like 20 or 40% of all the token. And now they have marketing dollars. They're trying to pump their bags. That means they're trying to get money into their ecosystem. They're trying to fill their coins, all their collective coins. They're trying to fill it with other people's energy, fill it with other people's cash. Only so that they can just rug pull. They can just pull all the cash out. And this is so common in the altcoins. Now, are you going to monitor this? Are you going to read the white papers? Can you, do you even know what's going on at a coding level and whether this thing is hackable or not? I mean, maybe you do, but it's a bet. And I think most of these are just like walking into a casino. It's a lot of noise and flashy, and you see people winning jackpots, but most people are walking out broke. Most people are walking out broke. Now, I don't know many Bitcoiners that haven't shitcoined for a while. It's part of your education. We all had to figure out what Bitcoin was the hard way. I think we all have hard lessons about Bitcoin and altcoin. I did. Now, I did pretty well in some of them. But then as I started to see all the other qualities of Bitcoin, I'm like, you know what, that's like a casino, but I want to make a difference. I want to set the world free. I want to give people property rights across the world, the 4 billion unbanked. I don't want to give so much control to these centralized governments and authorities and stuff like that. And Bitcoin allows people to do business peer to peer on a decentralized network that doesn't ask permission to conduct business, and commerce can just flourish in a decentralized way. And this might be cool for me and you in America, but on 4 billion of the people, this is revolutionary. This is the first time they've had access to the capital markets. But this is the first time they've had access to the capital markets. And this is the first time they've had access to the capital markets. And so they're like, we can do business with the world. And we can get our hands on these little smartphones and just send money, final payment, final settlement without permission, peer to peer. And it just works. And that's look, let me tell you, you say everything you want to say about Bitcoin. If it didn't work, none of this would be happening. So you can, attack it all you want. It's working. Okay. It's working, and it's working like for 15 years, and it's still going, and it's getting bigger, and more people are starting to lean on it and lay into it and put more energy into it and produce more electricity and get more miners and build more infrastructure and develop more wallets and develop more softwares and develop, lightning rails, and the whole thing is just growing, and the community's growing because it's a network of just entrepreneurs and people that are just, I'm gonna build something that makes me free. and these people want to be free. And they're building a great system. And so there is a big community drive behind this. Man, the community is a bunch of rabid dogs sometimes. I know these are some of my friends, and they're a little overwhelming. And I know I can be overwhelming when I talk about Bitcoin, but these people are like, where you kind of stab you in the eye if you say the word altcoin. So they've been comical to work with. If you're new to Bitcoin, you encounter these people, just calm your nerves. You'll get used to the carnage. Especially on some of these Discord channels and these X spaces at late at night, you get some interesting, colorful, and I love them, dude. These guys are the people you want in charge of security. These are the people you want being the bouncers at the door. They make sure everybody's on the straight and narrow. If you do anything wrong they call you out quick. They'll start making memes about you and cutting you down and chewing you up, spitting you out. So it keeps us all honest. And keeps us digging deep and making sure that we're doing the right thing and staying on the right path, because Bitcoin really is something that's going to bring a lot of peace and prosperity, and it's going to stop theft, I think, dead in its tracks. It's going to take theft down to just an afterthought. Right now there's so much massive theft and fraud that goes on all across planet Earth because of this system that's just bad and slow, and it's got all kind of friction in it, and there's so many ways to hack it and cut the little guys out or feed the little guys to death. And in Bitcoin, there is none of that. It's no friction. It's just math, compute, and kilowatt. That's all that's going on. It's language, compute, and a kilowatt. Produce electricity, plug in a computer, make it work, that math problem. That's it. That's it. Good luck hacking that. You got to hack the kilowatt. You got to hack compute. You got to find a way to just compute shit faster. These are the fastest computers on earth. I mean, they do nothing but that one SHA-256 algorithm. They just hash it out. So good luck beating that. If you want to hack this network, you better have big pocketbooks, and why not just buy a mine and mine it? Like, you're incentivized to just mine it. You could spend, $10 billion to try to hack it, or you could just buy $10 billion worth of mining equipment and just participate in the game. And everybody's getting rich on this stuff, or everybody's providing value or bringing energy to the market. So anyway, stick with your Bitcoin. Don't take my advice. Don't play around with the altcoins. You're going to get burned. Sissy, you can't ride the bull. You're going to get hurt. I promise you. Eventually you get burned. And most people, when they talk about their journey in altcoins, they only tell you about the wins. They don't tell. And look, I did good on Solana. No, I did good on what's that one? Help me out here. Shiba Inu. I did really good on that one. And I always brag, I did great on Shiba Inu. What I don't tell you is how I lost my ass on like all these gaming tokens that I knew in these gaming guilds. And I'm like, oh, gamers are going to come in and this is going to be their little community and ecosystem. And I went to zero. And then you sit around, well, maybe it'll come back and stuff. And it's just like dead. And then somebody else builds another token, just like the one you bought. And so all the money goes over there and yours is just like on life support and pennies. So yeah, you might've done well here or there with the other ones, but look, I mean, I think you're better at just creating energy, and pouring energy into this energy network. Go find a way to make money, go find a way to bring value to the market, sell it for more than you paid for it, and take that excess energy and put it in a strong energy network, which is Bitcoin. And learn to use Bitcoin, learn to transact in Bitcoin. I'm a big proponent of means of exchange. I think you should use it more than just a store of value. I know a lot of people think it's, and I guess maybe it needs to come first. Maybe store of value does come first. It seems like the natural order. But, I think if we don't ever use this, according to Jeff Booth, and I'll have him explain it. He'll come on the show and explain it a little bit better than me. If means of exchange dies, it can kill store of value. Why? I'm gonna have him explain that. It's a little above my pay grade right now. I'm trying to get a raise, but having hangover, energy debut. I don't know what that is. Security scams. Quantum computing threats. I heard some guys talking about that. I'm going to have them on the show. Actually, I think I did reach out to one because that's one I don't really know a lot about, quantum. I think I heard Angelopoulos say, if it's a threat, we can, of all the networks, of all the monetary networks, Bitcoin being one of them, Bitcoin's positioned to respond most efficiently, better, and in advance, because we're constantly getting bombarded by computers and different and faster ways to compute. So if there's any network that wants to plug in a fast thinking computer, it's the Bitcoin network. It's calling all fast computers, bring me your fastest, bring me your most efficient, bring me your most energy efficient, bring me the cheapest way to make a kilowatt, because we're gonna buy the cheapest, fastest electricity, fastest computer on earth. And it's like the race of the big boys, the F1 of compute over there. And so if a fast computer shows up, it's probably just going to be part of the Bitcoin network. It'll just be the new way to mine Bitcoin, and you can shift that difficulty adjustment down to make it to where it's still solving blocks every 10 minutes. So we can get somebody maybe to come on about that one, but that's an interesting topic. Now, if we've got a problem with quantum computing coming into the Bitcoin network and hacking it and stuff, then what kind of problem do the banks have if that same supercomputer turns on their much larger network? It's a softer target, guys. It's a way softer target. You can't tell me that the banks aren't a softer target than the Bitcoin decentralized massive computers plugged into these massive generators network. That's the one you're going to go hack. You're going to try to break in the house of the family of Navy SEALs, and you got grandma over here on a walker. Nothing against grandmas and walkers, but I would just not want to be facing a wall of Navy SEALs when I break into a house. And I think that's what you're breaking into when you're trying to break into a Bitcoin ecosystem, by hacking or massive compute or AI. Maybe it does though, but I think it's one of those things. So what if an asteroid hits Earth? Then what happens to the Bitcoin network? Well, what if the sun explodes and gobbles up the Earth and the sun has all the Bitcoin, I guess, at that point? So there's all kind of stuff like that going on. But anyway, I'll bring somebody else in on that. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close it there. Like I said, we got Amada Moose coming up tomorrow. I got G Money having a phone call with him. We'll schedule him on there. Got a couple others. Bob Burnett's coming on. What did I already tell y'all? Who was coming on? The Bitcoin News. Rob Wallace. Yeah, cool guy. He's got a great story too, how he got into this. I mean, good for him. I love that he's got last I talked, he had like 19 people working for the Bitcoin News, Bitcoin Magazine, no, Bitcoin News. And so I love to see Bitcoiners just like taking off. He's one of them. So anything I can do to help get the word out for everything he does, y'all check him out. I think he's got a massive email newsletter. You should be getting it. Okay. So if you haven't gotten it, we're going to get some kind of advertising for him because I want everybody to have that. He does a good job there. Good job, Wallace. All right. So Craig LeBlanc signing off with the Bitcoin Daily podcast, Sunday through Thursday, 9 p.m. Got guests showing up tomorrow. Hopefully we're doing a great job. Chris, thank you for this outro. We will, hold on, let me remove this. I'm going to add this. Bitcoin outro. All right, guys. Love you. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.
Welcome to the Daily Bitcoin Podcast, where knowledge meets financial freedom. We're here to break down the world of Bitcoin. No fluff, no hype, just real talk about how this digital asset is reshaping the future of money. Inflation is stealing your purchasing power, but what if there was a way to fight back? Enter Bitcoin, the digital currency that empowers you to take control of your wealth. Ever wondered why your money doesn't stretch as far as it used to? At the Daily Bitcoin Podcast, we educate, inform, and inspire. From expert interviews to breaking news, we bring you everything you need to stay ahead in the Bitcoin community. Market updates, expert insights, real-world use cases, and practical tips to navigate the Bitcoin economy. So whether you're a seasoned Bitcoin investor or just getting started, this is your daily dose of Bitcoin wisdom. Don't miss out. Subscribe now, hit that bell icon, and let's break free from the chains of inflation, one Bitcoin at a time. The Daily Bitcoin Podcast, your gateway to financial freedom.